The successful trader wins by being an expert at losing.
There are a lot of traders out there who say trading psychology is bullshit. What are your thoughts when you hear that?
First thing I ask, are you profitable? And I believe that trading is the perfect self-mastery. If you do not master the self, you are not going to be a successful trader. There's a wonderful thing about trading is that most of us spend a lifetime avoiding our psychological demons. In trading, they're going to stalk you. We have a brain that is about 6 to 8 million years old. It's all about survival in the moment. And we bring that brain to trading. We believe that we can control outcome. We believe that we can make things happen. And then you get into trading and you find out that this is a game of probability, not certainty.
Overtrading and revenge trading is ugly. You know you don't want to go there, and yet what happens is one of the most common problems in trading. It keeps happening over and over again, despite all the interventions.
The emotion's still going to overwhelm you. It is more powerful than you ever imagined. Your body is part of that emotion. The way you breathe, the way you hold tension is part of that emotion. It's the arousal element. And once it hits a particular threshold, it's taking out the mind. It's taking out the cognitive mind. So I'm teaching, when you're looking at charts, you're actually looking at emotions. The vast majority are not profitable. The trading gods really don't care. The success rate of a trader to become consistently profitable is 2 to 3%. And we're moving that 2 to 3% to 30. If you're afraid of failure, oh my God, don't step out the front door, much less start trading. Because in trading, you have this thing of where, let's say you take a loss. I teach my folk to do this. Is this a method mistake? And let's say that no, you executed your method was fine, and all of that. That doesn't need to be looked at, reformed. Is this a psychological mistake? Let's say that no, you actually performed quite well, and you did exactly what your rule said, and you still lost. So what happens? You realize that loss is just simply probability. You're not going to learn from it because it really wasn't a failure. I actually consider that to be success in trading. But if there's a psychological mistake there, it's exposing it so that it can be worked with. If there's a method mistake there, the same thing is it's exposing it so you can decide whether or not that method, that rule, actually is delivering the goods, or whether or not you're growing past that methodology, those sets of rules. So no, all the emotions are built for you to be able to survive as a group. And they can get skewed, but they don't have to be. People have no idea what an emotion really is. They have no idea. They don't grasp that all thinking is emotional state dependent. It is your emotions generating your ability to produce explanations about what's going on out here. And so the first thing I'm doing is I'm educating people that you don't have emotions. I'm getting people to understand that they really need to change their opinion about emotions. It's not like you can live without emotions. The only time that you don't have emotions is when you're dead. However, you can develop freedom of emotion so that you actually become the spearhead of being able to develop an emotional cocktail that thinking arises out of that allows you to perform really well in trading. But if you're trying to prove your worth, if you're trying to prove your mattering, trading is a really terrible, terrible place to force your will against something that you can't really comprehend. And the truth is that trading is a massive drain on your cognitive system. The amount of glucose, that's the fuel. When you're looking at trading, it's like a 1965 muscle car GTO, stomping it, and you're sitting there stomping it, and you're seeing the gas gauge go. That's pretty much what the high activity, the cognitive activity that you're doing in trading, that's what it's doing. I don't care who you are, is that after about an hour and 15 minutes of that kind of load, you're going to start running out of glucose, and all of a sudden your mind's going to get dull. It's not going to be sharp, and you're going to start making mistakes. So there's a process of taking care of yourself. But when it really comes down to it, what I'm teaching a person to do is to find what I call the ruler living within them. And that ruler exemplifies discipline, the ability to maintain order under pressure. And what happens with most people, they discover that their ruler goes AWOL. You know, they get all cranked up about the orphan wanting money. Yeah. Or the inner critic saying, you might as well give up. It's never going to work. It's never going to work. And what you're looking at is saying, is ruler present? Because, you know, ultimately, if you do not have discipline, everything else is for naught. But emotional discipline is a requirement. If you're going to be a day trader, you're going to have to really take care of yourself. You're going to have to take those hour breaks and take 15, 20 minutes, just absolutely do anything but think. Walk the dog, go for a walk, do whatever, but don't think. Allow the refueling to go through. So there's just, you know, my bread and butter is day trading. You know, I wouldn't, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for day traders and their needs. And so, you know, what happens is that most of my time is generated about the brain on stressful events now. It's not, the swing traders that come along, they're pretty far and few between. You know, I don't see them very much, and there's not as much intensity. There are certain moments that you know certain things are going to have to be done. You're going to have to get your psychology together. It's, you know, the brain does not learn from success. Success hits the dopamine button, and it more hardwires that pattern. And it'll get you in a lot of trouble. Failure is forcing the brain. That's the way the brain learns. If you look at failure and all of a sudden you're going, okay, it's not about me, it's about my competencies. And you learn to reorganize yourself to do better. We have this idea that if we had money, that would solve all the problems in the world. I used to work with really wealthy people when I was a therapist. And what I found is that the wealth was so great that they could insulate themselves from having to change. They could just send attorneys. And ultimately, but if you're actually in a honest-to-God feedback relationship with your environment, you're looking at greed going, it has some good qualities to it. The thing is we need to start defining how those qualities are going to activate. Because if you really have a belief of scarcity, you want to make money, and you're greedy to get it. And that greed starts dominating the committee of the mind rather than having a balanced part of that mind. And so ultimately, it's not that greed is bad. It's just you don't know how to use emotions intelligently. Your EQ, your emotional intelligence is low. But as you develop that EQ, you begin to see that, I mean, even shame. Understand, shame has a bad rap. If you want to change, you're going to have to employ shame. Shame is an emotion that says, the way you're currently organized is not working for the good of the whole. You need to reorganize yourself. Not uncommon when I'm working with a trader, we would be taking micro moments, a quarter of a second, in a trade management situation, and we're actually extracting that, elongating it, and we're trying to make changes about beliefs triggering into emotional action that occur within a quarter of a second.
In terms of preparation, as you talk, is that something you're working on as well? Like the preparation before coming to the markets?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're a fool to, in my opinion, you're a fool to walk into the markets without a mind that is ready for the task in front of it. And I know that if you're an alpha, that mind is good for about maybe 5 minutes. And I know that if you're more of a typical trader, that mind is good for 15, 20 minutes, and you need to be checking into it. You need to be reasserting it, because it's going to start drifting off. It's just the name of the game. So you have to be very vigilant with the mind you bring to the game.
In terms of the probability aspect, how are you having to kind of help people and guide people into thinking in terms of probabilities?
All the time. I mean, we have our evolution has us believing the deception that we're going to control outcome. In caveman times, that would be called control environment. And what happens is it was never true, but caveman had to believe it, or you and I are not sitting here today. Okay?
Very true.
And in trading, what happens is that the that programming's still there. It was very successful. It's not going to go away. And you're going to have to be able to get on top of it to be able to produce the mind consistently that can trade. And the one thing I also want to say is probably the biggest thing I see is a trader will finally master his fears to a degree that allows him to be profitable. And he thinks, I've got it.
Yep.
Hey, it's great. And what he doesn't see is the second demon getting onto the road. Success. Is that when you start winning, you start going, look at me. Yay! Dopamine, cocaine, starts pulsing through. And what happens is, I don't know anybody that would take a line of cocaine, snort it, and then trade.
Really?
That would be crazy. Because you're in exhilaration, everything's wonderful, you're euphoric, everything's going good, everything's going to turn out fine. And it really screws up a perfectly good trading mind. And, ultimately, that's what happens when you start winning. You get euphoric because you start thinking, I got it, I finally have it. You never have it. What you have is you learn a system that is able to hack the ancient brain that we have from our caveman times and soothe it for periods of an hour or so. And then you need to take care again, because if you've taken losses, you've triggered your emotional brain to either fear getting in or want to get that money back. And you have a lot of observation you have to do. You have a lot of discipline that has to be managed. And you have a lot of soothing that you have to do to be able to keep good thinking. And you have to always be in a position where you're courageous to face your fears.
Yeah.